met with. I said, how is it that this city has done so well? Whereas other Indian cities, which have been traditionally very, very popular, like Chennai, like Delhi, Bombay, which are again home to some of the best institutions, even Hyderabad, some brilliant academic institutions like ISND, CCMB, NIM, and GRI. How come we don't have as much innovation happening in our city? And how can we attract more investments? Because I was a Minister for Technology, Minister for Commerce. So my job was to attract investments, create jobs. So that was a question that was foremost on my mind. Amidst all this uncertainty in the initial days of our formation of a new state, the idea was, how can we brand Telangana, which has just become a new state, as a startup state, as a journey? How can we make this a very realized that there are enough number of institutions in Hyderabad, like the ones I just mentioned and many more. There are enough, again, academic institutions, number of brilliant colleges, brilliant higher education institutions, research institutions, and also a lot of youngsters who are very, very keen to become entrepreneurs, to innovate, etc. Now, the key point was to be able to bring all of them onto one platform to see how we can create a synergy and how the government can play the role of an enabler. So the one takeaway for me on the 5th of June, when I ended up at IIIT Hyderabad and ISB Hyderabad was, if I wanted my state to be called as a startup state, probably what I would require is a fine synthesis of some, synergy between all these various institutions and how we can probably bring them together. And the one X factor that was missing in comparison with Bangalore for Hyderabad was vibrant innovation ecosystem. So that's how we started realizing that we needed to look at this closely. And that's how actually T-Hub became a reality. This was 2014, June 5th, when we started looking at this. In 2015, T-Hub actually took shape. And I have to share the story with you. I wanted nobody else other than Ratan Tata to inaugurate. A lot of people ask me, he just passed away. I remember him fondly. I have many interactions with him. A lot of people ask me, they said, there are a number of unicorn founders that you can get. Why are you calling Ratan Tata? I said, I think he really symbolizes, he truly symbolizes the kind of change I want to see in India. Because here is this septuagenarian, a 70-year-old plus man. Now I think when he passed, he was 86. A 70-plus-year-old man who's as old as the independent India, because India was also there about 65 odd years of independence. But you see this gentleman who's 70 plus, who could very happily retire, who could very happily move away because he's wealthy, he's got he's got access to all the good things in life. He doesn't have to work at all. But you see him investing in a startup every other day. You see him trying to do something or the other new every single day to keep himself occupied. He keeps interacting. He keeps going to places, lecturing on innovation, etc., etc. So I was very keen. So I reached out to him. I said, Mr. Tata, I want you to come inaugurate this facility. He said, what is this T-Hub? So I made a pitch. I said, sir, this is actually probably the biggest incubator in India now. And this is going to be a place where all of the innovators will basically come together. They'll have mentorship. They'll have all kinds of logistical support from the government. They'll also probably be able to pitch to the venture capital. It was a very nascent idea. Unfortunately, he was sick. He said, I'm sick, I can't travel. He said, I'd be happy to do it virtually. I said, no. I want you to come and inspire all of us. He said, that would mean a couple of months. I'm going through a medical procedure, I can only come a couple of months later. I said, fine. We actually postponed the event by, I think, 2 or 3 months, just to make sure Mr. Ratan Tata. And the reason why I mentioned it, because when you hear the name Tata, you steel industry, but when you see the man and when you see the kind of investments he's making, it's very inspirational. So I wanted him to come. He came in on the 5th of November, 2015. I remember distinctly. And he made a fantastic speech when he saw the facility, interacted with the startups. This is what he said. And that is my biggest takeaway in my interactions with Mr. Ratan Tata. He said, T-Hub, this facility that I've just inaugurated, is a symbol, is a face of modern India. This is what he had said. And that is what I take most pride in. I was, of course, wanting to lash on to the lowest hanging fruit, so therefore I went to ISB, therefore I went to Triple IT Hyderabad, and then we also started seeing how we can really, like I said, probably scale up and grow up, into a next level. That's when I started touring the world. I traveled to the US many a times, to the Valley, and also many other inspiring incubation hubs and nodes, and important so-called destinations. Result of all these interactions was we realized, if India really has to be a force in the world in terms of ability to challenge the world, ability to actually connect with the rest of innovation ecosystem in the world, we also need scale. So we decided that we will actually create the world's largest tech incubator in India, and that too in Hyderabad. So the initial phase of T-Hub was only about 75 to 78,000 square foot in terms of physical space, could only accommodate about 200 startups. But then we wanted to create the world's largest. So then we went about methodically again, and this time we have, where you were yesterday in fact, that place, the T-Hub phase 2, we used to call it reactor. I'm not sure what this government is calling it anymore. But we created almost 570,000 square feet of space, which can eventually accommodate more than 2,000 startups under one single roof. And alongside that, while we were working on this, alongside that, we basically carved out about 18 acres in the of prime real estate in Hyderabad Knowledge City. Alongside the T-Hub, we also created India's largest prototyping facility called as T-Works, so that hobbyists, enthusiasts, anybody who's wanting to create a product prototype can actually dabble in that. It could be a youngster, a college student, or could just be a hobbyist, or could just be somebody else. We created T-Works. And alongside of these two, we also created what is called as Image Tower. Now, Image literally stands for innovation in animation, multimedia, gaming, and entertainment. Now, between all three of them, we have decided to create 1.5 million square foot of constructed space, which would eventually have more than 5,000 startups working under one single roof, and that truly would be the world's largest innovation campus. So this was the vision of our government in terms of creating T-Hub, T-Works, Image, all in one location, co-located together, so that these kids could work with each other, talk to each other, get inspired, and also network, and also grow as time passes. Now, I think we've had some great successes also from T-Hub, T-Works, and I can tell you it's a unique PPP model what we've created with backing from the government, and along with support from industry leaders and premier education institutions. T-Hub became a living, breathing ecosystem. It wasn't long before it began to make waves. It played a pivotal role in positioning Telangana as a hub for entrepreneurship, nurturing thousands of startups in the state, connecting them to investors, mentors, and industry leaders. And we did not stop with this. We started creating more and more of such incubators. We have created India's one and only women entrepreneurship hub, called as a V-Hub. Then subsequently, we also created what is called as RICH, the Research and Innovation Circle of Hyderabad, which again brings about a synergy between academic institutions, the marketplace out there, so that you actually start researching and working more, not on what is what is of interest to us, but also to the market outside. We also then subsequently wanted to catch our innovators young. So we brought in some very brilliant young minds from across the world. Dr. Shanta Thakur is sitting right in front of me. She was working in the US. She has a PhD. She's a doctor. I brought her from the US, made her the CEO of Telangana State Innovation Cell, whose intent was to work with the 26,000 government schools that there are in Telangana, catch our young minds. In association with the Education Department, we launched what is called as a School Innovation Challenge, and we went about identifying entrepreneurs from rural backgrounds, entrepreneurs who are coming out with some socially useful products, and we wanted to create more and more of such vehicles. The momentum ultimately led us from 200 startups in 2014 to now more than 5,000 startups in Hyderabad in a span of 10 years. We have, but I think the sheer numbers don't really matter, if you ask me. It's not the quantity, but I think it's the quality. So therefore, I'm also super proud that some of these startups have made waves across the world. In fact, a T-Hub incubator called as Skyroot was the first Indian space tech company to have sent a satellite into the orbit. Now that is the kind of impact we've been able to create. Also, over the past 8-9 years, T-Hub has contributed to a total investment of more than $3.5 billion in the startups that it has nurtured. Of course, fueled innovation with more than 600 corporate partnerships, facilitated 500 mentor connections, and engaged with more than 3,000 startups. Well, I can go on and on about T-Hub because it was my baby, but I think I've said enough on that. Like I said, we've also created a number of other institutions, but the last thing I'll tell you before I quit. We believe very strongly in the 3I mantra to spur further innovation. What do I mean, the 3I mantra? We said, we have to innovate, incubate, incorporate. At the same time, we also, while we do this, we also wanted to focus as a whole, and I'm sure Jayesh must have mentioned it when he was here. What's important, Dr. Suresh, is I think all of us can learn from each other. We collaborated with many other states. We collaborated with Goa. We collaborated with, I remember, Delhi. We also collaborated with Assam in terms of helping them from our learnings, from our experience on how we could probably build incubators at a faster pace, how we could probably help them without having to reinvent the wheel. And most importantly, I think the 3I mantra that I was espousing all along: innovation, infrastructure, and most important is inclusive growth. We cannot be elitist. Incubators can't just be in tier 1 cities. They can't just be in Hyderabad and Chennai and all the metros. We have to spread them to tier 2 and tier 3 towns. That's exactly what we've done in Telangana. In about 10 tier 2 towns in Telangana, the government of Telangana had created lovely IT hubs, in which we also have a space dedicated for innovation for T-Hub at a rural tier 2 destination. We also have what is called as TASK, the Telangana Academy for Skills and Knowledge, so that a job seeker can go to TASK, a job creator, potential job creator, can come to T-Hub or can come to T-Works. So this is a kind of whole of ecosystem approach that we have taken, and it's been a fascinating journey. Today I'm proud to share with you as I stand here that my state truly is a startup state, because in the first 10 years of its existence, it went from being ranked 14th in terms of per capita income in 2014 to number 1 in 2023 when we activated it. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Look forward to continuous conversations, and I hope continued conversations, and I hope to continue to enjoy Hyderabad and your visits here. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, sir, for such a lovely session. You spoke about innovation, the 3